Hi, this is Trey Pastor. I'm going to do another Mr. Nightmare story. I love doing Mr. Nightmare. I love his story, his whole setup and stuff. This one's going to be 3 honeymoon horror stories. Okay, so let me give my reaction to the video to this, and I'll be right back. Put my headphones on. Here we go, right now. Go. Honeymoon horror stories.
These are 3 honeymoon stories. Oftentimes, newlyweds take their honeymoons in foreign countries where the locals may not always speak their native tongue. In one of these stories, that exact scenario proved to be a problem, as a matter of fact. Learning a second or third language can prove to be a very useful skill that will come in handy many times in your life.
Story 1.
For my wife and I's honeymoon, we went to Hawaii. Our hotel was on Maui, which we heard was the best island for couples and honeymoons. The hotel was on the beach, and every night they'd have torch shows, luau's, and other kinds of live entertainment. During the first few days, we did a lot of drinking and restaurant hopping. On our 4th day, we wanted to explore one of the jungle hiking trails, as there are a bunch on the island, and it was on our bucket list for the trip. We drove our rental car a long drive to the nearest parking lot to PPY Trail, a long scenic trail in the bamboo forest in the jungle. The trail would eventually lead to numerous waterfalls and hidden ponds that you could swim in. We were told about it by some locals and other tourists, so that's what we wanted to do. There were a few cars in the parking lot, but the parking lot wasn't just for this one trail. Walking down the path for a while, it truly was just a wall of bamboo on either side of us. It was truly an environment I'd never seen before. My wife stopped us and pointed at a small animal slightly off the trail. It was a mongoose. He was stopped, looking at us, and we both thought it was adorable. My wife started approaching it slowly, bent down to appear smaller and less intimidating. I did the same. Of course, the little creature ran away pretty swiftly. My wife chased after it goofily. I followed suit. As we got deeper into the jungle, straying away from the trail, we heard the sound of water. It was a waterfall nearby. We followed the sound of it until we came to this beautiful pond with a small waterfall pouring into it. We dipped our feet in the water, and it was a surprisingly comfortable temperature, and it was deep enough to submerge ourselves in. So we decided to do a little skinny dipping, knowing how unlikely it would be that anyone else would be here. Well, apparently we were wrong about that, because as we were in the water, my wife shrieked and said, "Oh my God," as she pointed at some older man in a straw hat with a long gray beard standing in the jungle, half behind a tree, staring at us. I'm too nice of a person, so I waved for some dumb reason, instead of yelling to stop creeping on us, because that's what it looked like he was doing. He didn't wave back, he didn't smile, he didn't even move. I looked at my wife and said we should leave, but she didn't want to step out of the water naked for him to see. I kind of agreed. So now I called out to him, asking if he needed something, and only then he called back in a surprisingly deep voice, saying he's looking for his dog.
Get out of here.
I said we haven't seen it, and then he walked away. I said to my wife we need to go immediately. We got out of the water and got dressed, then tried to find the trail, but we couldn't find it. We strayed far enough away from it that we were apparently lost. We had lost the direction we came from, and there was no cell reception out here. It was getting late in the day, and panic was setting in. By the time the sun was setting, my wife was in tears. All the while, as it got darker and darker, we felt as though we were being followed, hearing footsteps every now and then. It reached the point where the jungle was completely dark now, and we had to use our flashlights on our dying phones. But when we heard footsteps coming from behind us again, I whispered to my wife to turn it off to not reveal ourselves. We felt like we were being followed for hours. After turning out the lights, it was pitch black for a second, until my eyes started adjusting to the darkness. As soon as that happened, I noticed the figure about 10 feet away, and it was slowly creeping closer. I backed away slowly as I pushed my wife behind me. I said, "What do you want?" in a very nervous voice. My wife apparently didn't see him, because she turned her phone's flashlight back on and aimed it at the figure, revealing it to be that old man with a straw hat and beard holding a hacksaw. We both screamed. My wife let out a scream of fear while I screamed, "Go, go, go," to her. We ran through the jungle without any lights. There was just enough light to barely see where we were going. We ran and ran and ran, thankfully wearing sneakers and hiking attire. Eventually I got cell reception, so we followed the map back to the parking lot we came from, which took a good 10 to 15 minutes of running. We made it back to the car, and at that point, it felt like we were given a new chance at life. The next day, we went straight to the Maui Police Department and reported the whole incident in an attempt to warn other tourists who may be visiting that specific trail. After that, we tried the best we could to continue our honeymoon, but it definitely put a damper on things.
Yeah, don't go places at night you've never been to before. Story 2.
My honeymoon was in Sicily. Our hotels were in Palermo, Cefalu, and Messina in that order. While in Messina, we did most of the sightseeing at sites like Taormina. Messina was packed with beautiful old architecture and museums to explore, which is what my wife Patricia and I enjoyed the most. Messina is a port-heavy city, and like the rest of Sicily, there are a lot of English-speaking tourists, but also a lot of Italian-speaking locals. We don't really speak any Italian beyond maybe an elementary level. We'd have a lot of locals approaching us trying to sell us things. At night, the vibe where we were was fun. Lots of music, people drinking and dancing and whatnot. We were partaking a little bit, while also continuing to walk around and explore. The night got the better of us, and we ended up getting pretty drunk, and the time flew by. Pretty soon it was past midnight, and things outside on the streets were simmering down. We took a wrong turn back to our hotel, and kind of lost our way. Eventually we ended up in this sketchy alleyway, and Patricia was getting upset that we seemed to be entering a sketchy area. I put my arm around her to make her feel safer. Suddenly some guy came up to us obnoxiously close, speaking Italian like a machine gun, so quick we couldn't even attempt to understand any words. We couldn't tell if he was angry or concerned, but he seemed frantic. He kept saying this word phantasma. At that moment, I didn't know what that word meant. I pushed the guy out of our faces and walked Patricia and I quickly out of the alleyway. He yelled more stuff at us in Italian. I didn't understand a single word of it. As we got away from him, I googled what the word phantasma meant, because it was the only word that he kept repeating that stood out. It means ghost, and when we found that out, we looked at each other. I couldn't help but nervously laugh to try to get Patricia to laugh as well, simply because it sounded ridiculous. We were in this dark, sketchy area of the city for sure. There didn't seem to be anyone else around. We'd normally call an Uber, but it's not even a thing in Sicily, so we had to walk it. I have to admit, I was probably as uncomfortable as Patricia, as we'd heard certain parts of the city were unsafe at night. There was this quiet woman's crying sound coming from behind us all of a sudden. We both heard it, and we both looked back. There was this young but freakishly tall woman about 10 yards away from us, walking slowly in our direction. Her face was buried in her hands. Her height was actually unnaturally tall. She looked taller than me. In fact, it was so creepy that even Patricia, who's usually a sweet, nurturing person, whispered that we should get the hell away from her. We jogged down this narrow street and turned left to another alleyway. We turned back again to the crying sounds. That woman was now at the end of this alleyway, just behind us, but still walking at the same slow speed, her face still buried in her hands. It felt like we were in this channel of alleyways and narrow one-way streets, and every time we turned, we'd still hear the crying behind us. It only stopped when we made it back to, I guess, what you'd call one of the main roads with other civilian traffic besides us. From there, we simply walked back to the hotel. Patricia kept insisting what we saw was a ghost, and every time she said it, it gave me chills. This story doesn't do it any justice in explaining just how disturbing seeing that tall, lanky woman walking towards us in that alleyway was. Not to mention that guy say the word ghost in Italian over and over. I'm not ruling it out as some kind of crazy over-the-top joke. For all I know, we ended up on some Italian YouTube prank channel. But Patricia insists on believing it was actually a ghost we saw, and it still gives me chills thinking about that possibility.
Get out of here. Story 3.
We aren't the richest couple out there. We both work 9-to-5 jobs to make ends meet. We're doing all right now, but back when we got married, we were struggling. So when it came time for our honeymoon, we couldn't go all out and blast all our money. My wife, who I'll choose to keep nameless, was doing research for affordable beach getaways, and she found a private house in the Bahamas for 3 nights on Airbnb, so we went with that. After flight tickets and the cost for the rental, it didn't even come out to that much. Upon arrival, we entered the code for the padlock on the door to let ourselves into the home. It had a spacious living room and kitchen, a large bedroom, one bathroom, and a big back deck that led to the private beach. We spent all of the first day on the beach, then walked to a nearby restaurant for dinner. When we got back, this is where the weird things started happening. As soon as we walked in the door, we noticed things seemed like they were in the wrong places, like our sandals, our bags, and so on. Nothing was missing though, so we accused each other of having moved the stuff beforehand. We jumped in the hot tub that was on the back deck for a while, until we both heard something from inside the house, like a bang or a door closing. I got out from the hot tub to check, dripping all over the floor of the house. All the doors were closed though. I didn't remember if they were open earlier or not. Regardless, I checked the room and it was clear of any intruders, as well as the bathroom. I went back outside to grab a towel and put my clothes on. I was done in the hot tub anyway, and so was my wife, though I was growing a little suspicious, or cautious you might say. The second day we sat on the beach for a while again, then went to some of the touristy areas of the Bahamas and did dinner. When we got back, again, we felt like things were different. Our stuff seemed to be in the same spots, but the bathroom and bedroom doors were open, and we didn't remember keeping them open. We knew it was possible we were being paranoid now and didn't actually remember how the doors were left, but still it was getting uncomfortable now. We made sure all the windows and doors were locked, and we skipped the hot tub that night. We just watched movies on the TV in the living room, as there was a bunch of included streaming services on there. There was no upstairs to the house, yet we thought we could hear little taps and whatnot above our heads. Maybe the roof? Maybe an iguana or some similar creature? At this point, we were even starting to think there might be some kind of Bahamian creepy crawly in the house. It seemed like a more logical explanation as to there being an intruder in this relatively small space. That night, I was in bed before my wife. She was in the shower when I heard her scream. I basically exploded out of bed to run into the bathroom. She turned the water off by then and told me that there was something in the vent above the shower. I got on the ledge of the tub and looked in it, but it was too dark in there. However, I did hear some tiny noises coming from in
Someone's
there.
living in the house.
This almost confirmed that there was a rodent or some small creature in the vents of the house.
Not a creature.
Still, we had one more day, it wasn't our problem. We went to bed together. The next thing I remember was waking up to my wife shaking me. She had this horrified look on her face that immediately sent shivers down my spine. She told me to listen, and the silence of the room allowed me to hear it. This frantic whispering sound coming from the ceiling, particularly one of the ceiling vents. That was it. I grabbed my phone to call the owner of the Airbnb. I heard the ringing, but simultaneously I heard this vibrating sound from above us. Immediately I started to think, wait, is there an upstairs that the owner is living in? The vibrating above us stopped almost as quickly as it started, but the call was still ringing on my end. Curiously, I took my phone's flashlight and aimed it up through the vents, and for just a split second, I saw someone looking down through the vent into the room. Most notably, I saw their eyes. We packed all of our important stuff as quickly as we could. It took all of about 30 seconds, and we were out the front door. We ran through the sandy dirt road until we came to a street, then we stopped to catch our breaths. We stayed in a cheap hotel that night and the next night as well. The last day we spent most of it waiting at the airport, but we reported this incident to Airbnb, and we got all of our money back. And I'm pretty sure Airbnb banned the owner of that house's account. We didn't pursue anything further with legal action, as we were just happy to get our money back. Nothing of ours was missing, but who the hell knows what kind of shady shit he was doing there when we weren't in the house.
It's probably spying on you. That sounds creepy. Real creepy. Okay, that story. Okay, the last story, yeah, obviously the owner was spying on you, and obviously he was coming down probably when you were gone and messing with your stuff, which is creepy enough. And then, like I said, he's probably spying on your wife when she was in the shower, spying on you when you're on the bed and stuff. Were creepy. You never know. He could have been filming it or something or whatever. He's just, you know, because you said there was no upstairs, right? So maybe he's hiding in the vents and something. Just real creepy. That's just incredibly creepy. Okay, exactly. They should have called the Bohemian police. I know it's a police thing. I know just run out of the house, but because obviously he was there. But as soon as you should have called the police. Well, they got them off the Bohemian police, because I'm sure the guy was spying on you and messing with your stuff. That's creepy. Exactly, especially in a foreign country and stuff, and you don't know, maybe you don't know all the laws and all that stuff. That's really creepy. Now the second story, why are you gonna get drunk to the point in a foreign country that you can not know where your hotel room is? That is stupid. You can get drunk in your hotel, okay? Don't get so drunk, especially in a foreign country. You can't speak the language that well, okay? Don't get drunk and then be so drunk that you can't find your hotel room. That is idiotic, okay? That is stupid, beyond stupid. You want to get drunk in your room, okay? You can have a few drinks at the bar or whatever, then go back to your room and drink, okay? Don't get drunk and then to the point where you can't find out where you're staying at. That is stupid, especially in a foreign country where you don't speak the language. That is beyond stupid, okay? Just stupid beyond stupid, okay? Okay, and you're lucky you didn't get killed or anything like that. And that wasn't that probably wasn't no ghost. Okay, you probably was drunk or something. No, that was no ghost. Okay, that I don't believe at all. Okay, now the first story in Hawaii, that was stupid. Going off some beaten path. Don't go by, especially in a foreign. I mean, Hawaii's not a foreign country technically, but still, you've never been there before, and obviously you don't know. Yeah, especially in this isolated place. Don't go by yourself. You and your wife by yourself. Okay, there's a reason why they tell you. I think, especially I think they tell you when you go to Jamaica, they tell you this: don't go outside of the resort because anything outside of the resort, you can wind up getting killed. Don't do that. Especially even if it's Hawaii, you're going somewhere where it's isolated by yourself, and you say, okay, let's skinny dip. There's nobody around. You don't know who's watching you. That's come on. You stop. Don't be an arrogant American to the point where you think, come on. Even in America that could happen. You go somewhere that you've never been before, and you think it's isolated, and especially if it's isolated, you don't know who's looking at you. Exactly. And then come on, you were asking for trouble. Don't go nowhere where it's isolated and then to the point where you got lost and you didn't know where you were, didn't know how to get back. Come on, you're asking for trouble. Okay, go, especially if it's a tourist place. Go out in the daytime, okay, where you know the way back and stuff. Don't be to the point where it gets dark and you don't know the way back, especially if you've never been there before. You're asking for trouble. Okay, that's just plain and simple logic. Okay, and it could have ended really bad. Okay, for you and your wife. Okay, even though it's Hawaii, they have crime in Hawaii. Okay, you don't know who's watching you, and they know tourists come to this place. So they know, exactly. So if somebody's looking to victimize somebody, they say, listen, it's an isolated place. There's just them two right there. We can just rob them and be, exactly. So don't do that. You're asking for trouble, okay? So always be mindful of your surroundings. That's very good advice. Always be aware of your surroundings, okay? Because that could have ended really tragically for you and your wife. And again, like I said, the second story, that's stupid. Do not get drunk in a foreign country where you don't speak the language, okay? Because you never know what could happen, okay? And again, that is crazy. That is freaking crazy. Okay, and I would not do that. Don't get to the point where you. And like I said, that third story, obviously the whoever was renting that Airbnb was spying on you and your wife and stuff. Obviously, that's what he was doing. You never know; it could have been filming you or whatever. But obviously, that's a creepy, especially when you make the call and you hear the buzz coming from the vent. Yeah, he's spying on you. Okay, so that's just creepy. And make you want to get out right there. So especially, but like I said, it's the Bahamas. That's a foreign country as far as you know. So you don't know exactly. That's why I said, these Airbnbs, stay in the hotel. I know what people like to do this thing. They like to do in these Airbnbs so you can have their own house to yourself. But if you're in a foreign country, you never know what's going to happen. I can understand you can do that in the States, but I guess it can happen in the States too. Somebody could be spying on the people and stuff, but you're asking for trouble and you're in a foreign country and you're in an isolated spot by yourself. You don't, especially you find stuff missing and stuff or moved around and stuff. You don't know. So wait a minute, I didn't do that. And then come on, you hear the noise from the thing. Come on, you are asking for trouble. You just lucky, exactly. Because you never know what his intentions were, exactly. Because that's crazy. But like I said, it's a Airbnb, so I mean they can track the guy, I guess. But you never know because it's a foreign country. What could happen? Because maybe he could just change his name. They take him off the thing, and then he could just change his name profile to a different one, and then re-register with Airbnb. So you definitely got to be careful. Definitely report that. And like you did the smart thing reporting that. But those are kind of freaky stories. Again, they're all freaky in their own way. Those stories, So definitely be careful, especially if you're gonna go on a honeymoon to a foreign country. Don't get drunk or crap fit where you don't know to the point where you don't know where your hotel room is. you're asking for trouble. Okay. But anyway, let me know what you think of Mr. Nightmare, these stories. I'll leave a link to it in the description box to his channel. You can check him out. I also have links to my Facebook, my Twitter, my Instagram. I also have a link to my other channel, Bob Views and Opinions. Please check that out as well. Also have a link to my Patreon channel. And I want to say a special thank you to my patron. His name will appear in this video somewhere. Okay, so I want to say thank you to him for supporting me. Okay, my patron's only $5 a month. I have tons of content on there, and I add content to it every week. So, plenty of content on there. Anyway, so let's follow the link, and you'll see a lot of content on there. Anyway, and this is Trey Pastor saying so long and take care.